the restroom and also on either side of the hallway.
Okay,
Ends, okay?
thanks.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Stephanie Yarborough, if you don't know me already, which most of you should. I am the founder of Next Steps Health and Wealth. You will notice we've had a recent name change, so we're going to be adding on some more financial services onto the agency. So not leaving Medicare or health insurance, don't worry, but just expanding the services that we offer. So you'll be hearing more about that. We're kind of in the middle of our name change, so some stuff still says Next Steps Insurance and some stuff says Next Steps Health and Wealth. But you'll be seeing that transition. And just logistically, if you need any bathrooms, they're on both ends of the hallway here. Help yourself to drinks and eat a cookie, because I don't want to take them all home again. And we are happy to welcome you today to our spring client educational event. And we might have some people here that are not clients. I don't know. I did advertise it on some different Facebook groups locally. Anybody that's new to the agency or me at all here? Nope. Okay. So we probably know all of you. And so happy to have Roberta with us here this morning. So I don't know if you know this, Roberta, but I first heard you speak during the height of COVID. It was 2020.
Oh, wow.
And you had done a presentation, I think for WellSpan at that point, would it have been?
Right, yeah.
And it was through the Northern Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. So they had, everything was, of course, virtual in 2020. So I heard Roberta on a virtual stream and just thought it was really important information that you were sharing. So I'm so glad we were able to connect and have you here today. I think you'll enjoy your time. This is the first part of a two-part series. So our second one is May 30th. 28th. This is the 30th. 30th and May 28th will be the second one. So Roberta will explain more, I'm sure, of how that second half will work. We are live streaming these. If for some reason you can't make the second one, be sure to tune into that virtual. But glad that you're able to be here in person today and get the materials that she'll be presenting to you. So you have a long bio. I even cut some of this out. But just to give you a little bit more background of where Roberta's coming from for us today. Currently the CEO of RGA Consulting Services, helping nonprofits to develop strategic plans, excellence in leadership, management enhancement, human resource management, and fundraising capabilities. You most recently worked for WellSpan Health, where you were the Horizon Advanced Care Planning Initiative Manager, learning comprehensive skills in guiding individuals and their families in advanced care planning conversations and advanced directive complementation. As the leader of the Horizon Planning Initiative at WellSpan, Roberta led a team of advanced care planning facilitators and built an integrated system of process design, training, and implementation, recognized as a program of excellence. And then after leaving WellSpan Health, you were asked to consult with 5 wishes, teaching medical professionals how to facilitate the conversations with patients, clients, and loved ones on end-of-life care planning, advanced care planning, and the creation of advanced directives. So that's a lot of what you're going to hear about today. And you live in Felton, Pennsylvania. How far is that from here?
An hour and 15 minutes.
An hour and 15 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have your husband Dick, and then your dogs?
Dog is Daisy and my
Sun.
calico is Sunshine.
Okay, very good.
Dog and a cat.
All right. Well, thanks again for being here, Roberta. We'll look forward to it. Yep.
My pleasure. Well, that was a long bio. And for 7 years, from 2017 to 2024, I was the manager of advanced care planning for WellSpan Health. And I covered the whole health system. So all 5 counties, all 8 hospitals, all of our primary care centers, our oncology centers, our cardiology centers, everything with specialties, all our community education and outreach, and one-on-one conversations with our patients. So in 2018, I started getting trained by a group called Respecting Choices, and you'll see some of their materials as we go through today. I am trained to be an instructor, but mostly to be a facilitator for people that are perfectly healthy, for people who have serious illness that's chronic, and then for people in the last year of life. And I'm also a facilitator and presenter. I got certified through 5 Wishes. I'm no longer consulting with them, but through the Aging Inspired Advanced Care Planning Coalition, we have used 5 Wishes as our primary document because that's what WellSpan used for all of the time that I was with them. Both WellSpan and UPMC now have gone to a different document, but very similar to 5 Wishes. But the thing I really want to tell you is I'm a human being. My husband died 20 years ago at age 51 from pancreatic cancer. About a week before he died, we had him in in-home hospice care. We lived out in the country north of Baltimore. His three brothers were there. No, his three brothers, three of his four brothers were there. His mother was there. His three children were there. And the hospice nurses came to me and said, you know, you're so far away from the hospital and Bob's declining so quickly, we don't think we can manage all of the pain he's going to be experiencing and the decline in his health, keeping him here at home. Now, he wanted to die at home. I wanted him to die at home. His family wanted him to die at home. But where he worked at the hospital, they had this lovely, lovely hospice facility where he could go and spend his final days, because they said it's probably 3 or 4 days. And so he and I talked about it. He didn't talk much after that. He didn't talk much before that because he was really starting to decline. But he had had his one-on-one with each of those people that I just described. They came upstairs to the bedroom, sat in a chair while he talked to them about his dreams, his wishes, his sadness that he was going to be leaving them. And all three kids were in their 20s. So we decided he's going to go to Gilchrist. I called the ambulance with the hospice team, went downstairs and told the family. What do you think the family's reaction was after that? You're smiling. It wasn't good, was it? So 20 years ago, that family walked out of my life and has never walked back in. I have 2 grandsons I've never met, don't talk to, don't see. I send presents. If I send presents, I get a photo of them, but I'll never have a conversation. I only say that to you not to feel sorry for me, because I've had a lot of grief counseling over the years, because I've lost my mother, my father, my husband, very, very good friends. And the problem is, if we don't have a conversation with the people we love, there is a lot of conflict that goes on when people are dying. I've got a lot of shaking heads from that experience. So we have created this. I'm not going to talk much about Lebanon County's work, but for all of the time that I've worked, since I've left WellSpan, I've been part of this coalition doing all of these presentations. You have a bunch of additional presentations that we do, so you'll see that. But the important thing that I want you to know is I want you to understand what advanced care planning actually is. It's not so much about death as it is about life and living and quality and conversation. I want you to understand that 3 legal documents you need for advanced care planning. You may have had an attorney create them for you if you already have them, but the attorney would not have asked you the right questions, would not have helped you to pick the right people, may only have 1 person representing you instead of 3. And so it's really important to know all of those details. Often in a group like this, I'll have people come in and say, oh, I just came because Stephanie asked me to come. I got all this, it's all fine. I really don't need this, but I'm here. And when they leave, they say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I don't have it all, and I need to do so much more. And so that's why I want to talk a lot about why these conversations mean so much. And it's not just about the legal documents that you have squirreled away in a safety deposit box that create the meaning for this. Now, you have a copy of this PowerPoint. Make notes on it, write questions on it. If you have a question, please stop me. That's fine. And I do a lot of interactive work. So you're going to have the opportunity to participate today. So the first thing I want to do is, I know some people have had limited experience with people dying. Usually when you get to groups of our age, we've had at least one experience. But this is a video that was done 2015, 2016, when Ellen Goodman, the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, decided to create the organization called the Conversation Project because of the death of her mother. And you'll hear some of that story in this. This will show you a 47-year-old man dying of glioblastoma, the worst kind of brain cancer there is, and what he decides to do in terms of talking with his family and care. You'll see a 22-year-old with her parents after the death of a grandfather that didn't go quite so well, and their conversation and how they use a document that's in your packet called the Conversation Starter Guide. Then you'll see Deaconess Hospital in Boston and what healthcare providers are trying to do differently to make sure that loved ones, family members, and their patients have conversations before they ever get to an end-of-life crisis, and how they're trying to manage that. It really demonstrates what I hope we'll learn from today.
The government shut down the budget battle. All this ties back to the bitter bickering over the president's program to bring affordable health care to more Americans. But there is another struggle over American health care underway in homes across the nation. A very personal fight faced by many families over the end of life. Now, we know that most Americans want to die at home, but most of us meet our end in hospitals or in nursing homes. How that would change might begin with a tough talk about how we want to die.
My name is Joe Dyer, and I'm 47 years old. I was diagnosed with glioblastoma multiforme stage 4. It's the most dangerous brain cancer there is. And they give you, the median is 14 months from diagnosis. Standard protocol is for you to be on chemo kind of for life. There's 5 days on and 18 days off. I did the 5 days on it, felt pretty horrible for sure. And it took me 13 of those 18 days before I could really get off the couch and get back to being able to do what I love. Because for me it's much more about quality of life than it is quantity. I opted not to take the chemo protocol at all. It just was too much time of feeling horrible. And for very slim gain.
Joe spoke with his family, wife Lori, sons Alex, Aaron, and Zeke, and his brother David, making it clear to them how he wanted to be cared for and how he wanted to die.
If I got pneumonia or something like that, I would probably go to the hospital if it's a treatable condition, But if it's glioblastoma related, I definitely want to stay home. If it goes that route where, I know that the end's coming, I don't want to be away from here. I can see and feel people going, gosh, why is he not doing everything he can? I am doing everything I can. I'm doing everything I think is best for everybody involved, myself and the family. And I knew for me and for Joe that it was my way to go.
The kind of death Joe Dyer envisions is rare. Despite surveys showing most Americans would prefer to die at home, more than 2/3 die in a hospital or nursing home. Many after stays in an intensive care unit, like this one at Boston's Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital.
He's a 56-year-old, decreased respiratory drive.
He's a 60-year-old surgical wound infection.
Probable bacterial meningitis, along with a whole bunch of other lab abnormalities. TEMS 103. Her daughter's here. Her husband does not understand that she's doing very badly.
So it sounds pretty serious.
Today, Dr. Asha Anandaya and her team are treating a 60-year-old woman with multiple organ failure.
This is a patient who just came in last night. He became very ill very quickly. We don't know which way it's going to go, but I think it's important that it's clear to the family that the patient is almost as sick as she can be. Do you have any questions right now? I know it's overwhelming. We don't know if she'll survive. It sounds like we pushed the limits as far as sedation, so I think we often have to start thinking about what the patient would want in terms of things like remaining on life support for a more prolonged period.
Nurse Kathy Purcell has worked in the ICU here for 28 years.
Patients get acutely ill, come into the ICU, and nobody's discussed it. Some family members aren't ready to let go and to say, let's not do more aggressive measures. And so they'll say, to the staff, oh, of course mom would want everything done. And other members would be like, no, she wouldn't have wanted that done, And the way that I help, and a lot of us do, is to say to the family members, look, if your mom were listening to us, what would she be telling us to do? Or, what was important to her in her life? I think if decisions were made by patients prior to their admissions and expressed to their family, then a lot of the suffering that goes on right now would be avoided.
That's the goal of the Conversation Project, a new organization founded by Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Ellen Goodman.
We want people to go to the kitchen table, the people that they love, and have a conversations about what it is that they want.
My interest in this subject really grew out of the end of my mother's life. I was faced with a cascading number of decisions for her health care, and I wasn't always certain what she would have wanted. I often wished that I could have said, Mom, is this what you want me to do? Is this what you want to have happen to you?
The project website offers tools to help families think about and talk about what kind of death they want.
When you ask people how they want to die, 70% of them say they want to die at home, for example. And home is not a geographic place necessarily, but it's an idea. It's a way you want to die peacefully, not in pain, surrounded by people you love, not in the ICU. People are not dying in the way they would choose. That's a big motive for the Conversation Project.
That's how J.F. Scherer felt about his father's death. So he and his wife Luann decided to have the conversation with their daughters, starting with 22-year-old Caitlin.
What did you feel went wrong with Grandpa's passing when he got really sick at the end? I don't think anybody knew who was even supposed to make the decisions. Some family members thought Grandpa needed more care and should go to the intensive care unit, where other family members thought he should just be allowed to be at home and be comfortable. So it was very confusing.
If something happened to me today, I would not want to be kept alive by medicine if I didn't have a chance to recover or if I didn't know you.
If there's something going on with me and you're not sure, say, is Mom actually going to get better? Or is she going to live but she'll never talk to us again? Okay. For me, the important thing is, it's not what's the best medical thing that's out there and everything that possibly can be done. It's dignity for me, it's comfort.
The Scherers are using the Conversation Project Starter Kit as a guide.
It gave an outline, which was really helpful and important, because all I could do was look back at my father-in-law or somebody that I had lost and say, well, what would I have done in that circumstance?
We changed the way we give birth in America. It was women had their feet in stirrups, they were knocked out. It was women largely, but parents to be in general who said, wait, let's have this experience the way it should be. This is not only a medical experience, it's a life experience. And I think if we change the way we give birth in America, we can change the way we die in America. There are lots of hospitals where healthcare providers are eager to respect wishes, but it's been really hard to feel comfortable doing that. So what they need is for the culture around them to change. How are you?
Dr. Laura Rock agrees. She says when patients' wishes aren't clear, doctors often feel forced to give more treatment than necessary.
But we absolutely need a culture shift. It's rare that we have a family that comes in and has had conversations about the kind of care that they would choose or their loved one would choose at the end of their life. It's rare. And when they have had those conversations, they aren't burdened with guilt in making decisions that they think are leading to the death of someone they love.
do for his family by talking with them about how he wants to die.
No matter what, it's not going to be easy for the kids, the Lord. But it's a lot easier to talk this stuff through. If you communicate all this stuff out, just not going to go away. But the fear, the anxiety, all that can go away if you're clear and communicate with each other. And it's huge.
And it is huge. So what we used to do in healthcare is start at the end. We used to say every time somebody came in to a primary care practice, do you have an advance directive? You'd say yes or no. If you're a new patient, what happened to the medical director I worked for, who was an internist, one of his new patients got the pack of papers that you have to fill out when you're a new patient for a practice, and he got to the advance directives documents, and he took it back up to the receptionist and said, I don't really understand what these documents are. What am I supposed to do? And she did her job very well and said, oh, those are so important. Just read through it, check the boxes, sign it at the bottom, give it back to me, and I'll give it to Dr. Badia for your visit. So he did that, gave it back to her, gave it to Dr. Badia. Dr. Badia did the visit, and then at the end of the visit, he said, oh, I am so glad you filled out these documents. Do you know what they are and how we'll use them? What do you think his answer was? Not at all. I have no idea. That nice lady in reception said that they were really important, but I don't know what they are. And that's what happens so much of the time. We don't ask the question, decide. So here's the question we should be asking in healthcare. Have you thought about the 3 people you trust the most who could make decisions for you if you were in the hospital in a coma and couldn't make decisions for yourself? Or just coming out of surgery under anesthesia? Or on pain medication that made you loopy, so a doctor said, you're not competent to make a decision right now? Have you thought about who those 3 people would be? And then have you thought about how aggressive you'd want treatment to be if there was no chance of recovery? Do you want them to do absolutely everything, or would you want them to allow you to die a natural death? So have you had that conversation with the 3 people you trust the most? That's what we have to help you decide, is to have this conversation, to have an understanding of who you want to pick, why you want to pick them, and then have a conversation with them about what you want them to do and what you don't want them to do. Most of you, if you have a living will or a power of attorney with an attorney, did they have that conversation with you? Probably not, because most don't. Most do what we do in healthcare and say, fill out this form, check the boxes, sign it, I'll notarize it, put it in your safety deposit box. Not the best approach at all. So we want to help you decide, what is it that you need to think about? What is it that you need to fill out? And then have that conversation with your loved ones. Have that conversation, particularly with the people that you want to choose to be your decision makers. You'll choose a primary, and then 2 people to back up that primary person. And then document it. Because you're going to get some richness from that conversation with your loved ones. You don't want to allow them to really change your mind if you're pretty solid in what you're thinking. But sometimes that conversation can help before you document it. And then once you do document it, you should never, ever, ever put it in a safety deposit box. Because what happens if your accident is on a Tuesday night? Who gets into the bank on a Tuesday night? Or you put it in the safe at home and you say, oh, my kids know where it is. How many of you want your kids to drive however long it is to your house, try to remember the safe combination, try to get those documents, then drive all the way to the hospital? In the meantime, they could have been right there by your side, holding your hand. So you want those documents shared with everybody that's your healthcare agent. You want those documents at your doctor's office, at your health system, at the hospital where an ambulance may take you. Now that may be, because of where we are, that could be Good Sam Hospital, could be Ephrata Hospital, could be Lancaster General, could be Penn State Health, could be any one of a number of hospitals. And depending on where you spend a lot of your leisure time, if you have a heart attack in a restaurant, an ambulance is going to come there. you're in Hershey, they're not really going to keep bringing you all the way back to Lancaster General. They're going to take you to Penn State Health. I can tell you, go ahead.
Did you want questions as we go, or were you going to say this?
Questions as we go.
So I think I heard you say, like, to choose, you're suggesting to choose one primary person to speak for you and then two backups?
Yes.
So how would you suggest the navigation of, like, for myself, honestly, there's three kids in my, I have two siblings, there's three of us. I know that my parents have us named all equally as a spokesperson. So, like, navigating the challenge of picking one kid to speak for you, but, you know, that
Yeah.
could, I guess, potentially overrule the other two, or how would you suggest entering that kind of conversation?
Sure, and that happens a lot. So a lot of times, I will say to people, if you want all three of your children to be your primary person, just make sure they all agree. And they can all agree in a crisis when they may have differences of opinion. It might be best to choose the one that you think is not as emotionally tied to you that they're going to want to hang on and do everything possible. Choose the one that is best in a crisis. Choose the one that can resolve conflict the best. And then tell the other two, I've picked Stephanie, not because I love you less, but because of these characteristics of Stephanie, which I hope you recognize as well as we do. But I want you guys to back her up in case, you know, she's vacationing in Italy and I can't get a hold of her, or the hospital can't get a hold of her. Then, John, you'll step in. Then if both Stephanie and John aren't available, then Katie, we want you. But, you know, Stephanie's going to include everybody in making a decision, and you're all going to be advised by two physicians if I'm not going to recover. So that's how we do it. For some people, they don't have anybody. And so part of what I'll go through in a bit is how to navigate that. Or they only have one person, how to navigate that. So that's a part of what I'll go through as we get to going through the 5 Wishes document. Great question.
Can I ask one of the spouses? How does that line up with your 3 people?
So you can have your spouse. Some spouses would do exactly the opposite of what you want. So I have people that have been patients that I've worked with who've said, my wife will just be a pool of tears. My husband will just be a pool of tears. They won't do what I want them to do. And you need to know that the person you pick is going to do what you want them to do. For some spouses, they're that much older, or they have more serious conditions, or they're on the verge of dementia. And so you don't want them to be the person who has to be available. Now, you can have somebody that lives far away in this age, digital age that we live in. So if you have somebody that lives in California or Maine or Seattle, you can still have them as your primary or as your backup people, because we can get them on FaceTime, on whatever device we need, okay? So here's your first activity. You've got 3 Post-it notes. I want you to take one of them and write down as many things as you want about what gives your life meaning. What makes a day go by where you lose track of time?
Anybody need any birthday students?
As many as possible. And if you want to get a little stretch break, you can bring it right up and put it on this flip chart page. If you don't want to get up, you just raise your hand and I'll get it from you and I'll put it over on the flip chart page. I did a presentation where I had a 12-year-old boy and he said it was his cows because he was a farmer. I did this at Cornwall Manor, which is up in Cornwall in Lebanon. They said ice cream. Had to be. There was a whole group of them said, had to be a day with ice cream. So whatever is most important to you, whatever gives your life meaning. And whenever you're done, just bring it up on the flip chart or raise your hand and I'll get it from you. Yeah, that little stretch break is good. Thank you for your service. My husband was a Navy guy. My father was too.
But I'm naval air.
I know. And my best friend was Naval Air. We got everybody? Got everybody? Okay. So, conversations with my wife, spending time with my grandchildren, traveling, community volunteering, travel, lunch, dinner, good, walking, TV, sleep, computers, reading, learning, computer games, husband, daughter, grandkids, coffee and donuts in the morning, and the beach. People, helping someone, faith and belief in God, reading, talking with people, gospel songs, time with sisters, son, more family. Oh, and she wants me to read this upside down. Being able to take care of household chores, spending time with family, reading. Come on, Marion. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Being able to be with family and, of course, knowing who they are, traveling and be with grandchildren, and the beach, another beach person, helping others, my dog, my family, gardening, good food, time in nature, creative projects, the gym, painting, writing, grandbaby, music, laughter. Let's see, where else do I have something new? Friendship, good stewardship of the earth, healthy living, natural-based living, guiding youth in their spiritual journey, providing food for families in need, husband spending time with children and together, getting out in the garden, my Savior, my family, my work. How many of those were exactly alike? Who would you pick for this one? Unless they told you who they were. You know, see, we assume everybody knows what gives our life meaning, what makes a difference in a day. But if you don't tell them, they don't really know so much. You think they do, but if you ask them, and it's going to be one of your assignments, I want you to ask the people closest to you what they know about what gives your life meaning, and see how much they know about what you put on your Post-it note. So that's one of your assignments for our next. I'm going to throw a ringer into this now. So your next Post-it note is to think, if tomorrow, knock on wood, this happens to no one, a doctor says to you, you only have 6 weeks to live. What's on your bucket list for that last 6 weeks? And again, my apologies if anybody is in this situation now. But if somebody said to you, you only have 6 weeks, what on that list that you just provided to me, where are your priorities? Where is the thing you absolutely want to do before your time is done on this earth? And we all will get there. Whether we get there in a car accident, whether we get there from a heart attack or stroke we don't anticipate, whether we get there from a serious illness that can no longer be treated, or whether we get there because we're 120 and the body's just worn out and it's our time. So, what's your bucket list? Write that on your Post-it note, and then I'd like you to bring that up here. What are your priorities? What do you not want to miss or do in those 6 weeks? I had somebody say if they hadn't learned the piano yet, they wanted to learn how to play the piano. And when you're ready, bring it up and put it on the flip chart. How we doing? Anybody else? All of the lists got smaller. Family. Oh, Christian music about heaven. Telling friends how meaningful they were in my life. I've done everything, no bucket list. Wow, I want to meet that person. Last 6 weeks, spending time with spouse and children and grandchildren, saying goodbye to close friends and family. Time with family and friends, no change. Time in nature, meditation, time with husband and family. Be right with God, spend time with family, go to the beach, scuba dive, parachute, hot air balloon. Make sure all paperwork is completed. Be with family while eating a banana split ice cream sundae. Perfect. Go on a trip to Italy. Make decisions about household items. Type of funeral I want. Show children where all the documents are. Get the house organized. Travel to the Bahamas or Bermuda for that last vacation on a cruise ship. So again, they're all different. And how do you make sure they happen? Unless you talk to somebody, unless you get those plans made. Even having a conversation with your close friends. How does that happen if you don't talk about it, if you don't plan for it, if you don't make it work? I can tell you, we had a gentleman in the hospital who was dying. And he said on a Saturday night, I would just love a chocolate milkshake. It's the thing I love the most. We didn't have any chocolate milkshakes in the hospital, but the nurses went down the street to the ice cream stand, got a chocolate milkshake, brought it back. He adored that chocolate milkshake, and he died the next morning. He told somebody. We had a patient in VNA who said, I so want to die at the beach. It just would bring me such peace. So our VNA staff figured out a way to get her to her place at the beach, and she had 3 weeks at the beach before she died. But that took planning. That took somebody helping. So if you want to go to the beach, if you want to take that trip to Italy, there's a movie called Being Mortal that was done by Atul Gawande. And in one of the scenes, a woman is in a hospital bed, dying of cancer, with her husband sitting next to her, and they're talking about how she's coming closer to the end. And she said, I can't die till I take my grandbabies to Disneyland. When do you need to make that trip? Probably not in the last 6 weeks. So some of these things you don't want to put off if they're on your bucket list. I can tell you for my husband fought pancreatic cancer for 10 months, and last 3 weeks he was in hospice, slept most of the time. But one of the things he said to me was, when my sons get here, when my middle son gets here, and when my brothers get here, I want them to take me out in the little car. See, at age 50, I talked him into going on eBay, finding a little Z3 convertible, and buying it for himself, because he'd never done anything for himself. And he got diagnosed 2 months after he bought that. And most of that year, he was too sick to drive it. But he wanted his son and his brothers to take him out in that little car. He died on Memorial Day that year. What a gift. I would never, ever have thought that. I was a mess. I couldn't imagine losing my best friend, the father of my stepchildren, one of the greatest people, friends I know. I would never have thought of that. I was so glad he told me that, because it was such a gift to Nicholas, to Bradley, and Brian, that they could take him out on a sunny day, something he wasn't allowed to drive anymore, and bring that joy to him and that memory to them. So that's why this is so important, being able to have those answers. So I want to give you a little research. You saw some of the things in that video clip, but here's a study that was done by Respecting Choices and a hospital in Australia, a small study in 2015. Respecting Choices was out of Gunderson Health System in La Crosse, Wisconsin. They actually started in 1990 to find a better way to have these conversations with patients and to document those conversations, so they made a difference, so that they were honored when somebody was at end of life. So this hospital took 56 patients, 27 of them in a control group. I imagine all of you know what a control group is at this point. It's a group of people you don't do anything with. If they have an advance directive, fine. If they've had a conversation with family, fine. If they don't, that's the way it is. We don't do anything. But in the advanced care planning group with the 29 patients, they use the Respecting Choices model of having a conversation with someone in the last year of life. And that is, fill out an advance directive, potentially fill out a physician order for life-sustaining treatment, make sure the family has a conversation, make sure there's a spokesperson for when they're not capable. Look at the difference. Wishes known and respected, 30% in the control group, 86% in the advanced care planning conversation. This is the most important thing, though. Family depression, family anxiety, 3 to 5 times higher, absolutely none. And as Ellen said, and as Atul Gawande says in his documentaries, after 6 months, if you've had these conversations and you know you've made the decision your loved one wanted you to make, you're not guilty. You're not second-guessing whether or not you killed that person. You're not second-guessing whether or not you did the right thing. You know what you were supposed to do. There's always stress, but still 3 to 5 times higher in terms of stress, anxiety, and depression. It makes a huge difference when we have these conversations, then create the documents, and then share them with the healthcare team so they know exactly what to do. Because if they don't have your document, if they don't have somebody who can speak for you, they are required to do full aggressive treatment. They are required to do CPR, even if it will damage you more. They are required to intubate you and put you on a ventilator. They are required to start dialysis. They are required to do surgery, even if it won't help you, even if it won't help you improve the quality of your life or extend the quality of your life. So what is advanced care planning? Advanced care planning is a process starting at age 18 and going all the way to age 120. It's not a one and done. It isn't one conversation that you have. It isn't one document that you create, or 2 documents, or 3 documents that you create. It changes as your life changes, it changes as your health changes, it changes as your relationships change. So at age 18, you'll probably pick your parents, if you have 2 parents, to pick to be your healthcare agents. And you probably at age 18 think you're gonna live forever, so you want everything possible done. If you get in a motorcycle accident, or you get in a boating accident, or a hiking accident, or fall off your bike, or whatever happens to you. Then at age 30, you probably have moved away from home. not so much these days, but in usual circumstances, you've moved away from home, you have a spouse, you have a partner, you have a whole other group of people that you're close to. So you may change your power of attorney for healthcare. You're probably still, if you're healthy at 30, you're probably still going to want everything done possible. Until some doctor says, you know, this is not going to help, we need to quit because death is imminent. But then if you get to 50 and you get diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, or brain cancer, or lung cancer, and you have a short time to live, then you may begin to say, I'm divorced now. My husband had been divorced, so he got rid of his ex-wife as his power of attorney for healthcare. He made me his power of attorney for healthcare. We didn't know anything, so I was the only person, which was part of the problem with his family walking away, because they didn't understand the decisions that had to be made, and he never had a conversation with them. Even though he had one-on-ones with everyone, he never had that conversation. So now you're going to say, maybe I don't want CPR. And especially if you're age 80. Over the age of 70, CPR doesn't work as effectively as if you're younger and healthier. And I'll get into that in a moment as well. So every time your relationship changes and that healthcare agent has died, you're divorced, they've moved on, you don't want them anymore, you need to change your power of attorney for healthcare document. And it's not a document you can cross through right over initial and date. It has to be a brand new document. As your health changes and you get closer to death, and life support treatments would cause more harm than good for you, that's when you want to make sure your living will is up to date and you're saying how much treatment you want, how much treatment you don't want, whether or not you do want life support, you don't want life support, or you want a doctor to help your healthcare agents decide. The advanced care plan then is the written documentation of those conversations, those wishes, your values, your goals for care as you get closer to death. It's enabling your healthcare team. That's why I'm suggesting, if you're part of WellSpan Health, UPMC, Penn State Health, Lancaster General, it's a system, and they have one medical record across the whole system. So if you give it to anybody in WellSpan, anytime I put a document into the person's health record, all of their doctors could see it, the hospital could pull it up, even on the face page that we could see they had an advanced directive, we could see whether they had a physician order, we could see exactly what they'd want and who was their healthcare agents. So it made it very easy if somebody came in and needed care, we could have those conversations and read the documents. So these are the phases of health that we go through. I called it Horizon Planning 101 and 201 as part of the work that I did. That was part of a tagline we had that said everybody has a health horizon, we should plan for it. So phase 1 isn't dependent on age. Until I was about 69, I was still in phase 1, healthy or with a curable condition. But then health can change and you go into phase 2. That's the early onset of a chronic condition. So that could be acid reflux, could be diabetes, could be hypertension, could be early kidney disease, but a chronic condition that can be treated either with medication, lifestyle changes, or surgery. In these two, 101, the most important thing is who are the 3 people you trust the most, who you want to be your decision makers when one doctor says you're not capable of making decisions, either temporarily or permanently. And that healthcare agent will make decisions for preventive care, for curative care, and for end-of-life care. So you go into the hospital with pneumonia, you're put on a ventilator to help you breathe, you can't make decisions, you can't talk, you're usually sedated to keep you on the ventilator. Then your healthcare agent will step in. Once you get off that ventilator and you're back to having capacity, your healthcare agent steps away. If you have Alzheimer's and dementia, and you're no longer able to make a decision, your healthcare agent will work all of the time for anything that you need with a healthcare team. Phase 3, though, begins Horizon Planning 201. And in phase 3, you've got the progressive chronic conditions like cancer, end-stage renal disease, COPD, congestive heart failure, Alzheimer's and dementia. This is where treatments are not working as well, your disease is progressing, you have more hospital stays, therefore you get more complications because hospitals are full of infections, and we do our best to keep them from you, but sometimes they sneak in. In phase 3, you want to begin to consider palliative care. The end of phase 2, into phase 3, palliative care. How many of you know what palliative care is? A couple of people. So palliative care is the group of services, in addition to your primary care doctor, in addition to your specialist. There are doctors, nurses, social workers, case managers that help with managing your disease, medication management, resource management, like durable medical equipment, transportation, housing, food, emotional support. It helps increase the quality of life, helps to decrease hospitalizations, unnecessary hospitalizations, and provides a higher quality of life. Then in phase 4, the first 6 months of phase 4, you're still in palliative care, you're still getting treatments. When we see that in that last year of life, you're not likely to survive and treatments are stopping, that's when you get hospice care. You are so much better if you have hospice care for 6 months than if you have hospice for 6 hours. A lot of people feel that hospice is a death sentence, that if you go into hospice, that means you're going to die quickly. That is not true. If you go into hospice, people are shaking their heads. You will live longer. My mother was in hospice for her cancer. She had 6 months to live, and she was in hospice that whole time. Helped her tremendously being there. Phase 3 and phase 4, you're going to want to make sure that you've got your power of attorney for healthcare and your living will up to date. In phase 4, you're still going to have those 2 documents, but in phase 4, that last year of life, you're going to want to add something called the Pennsylvania Physician Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment. That's a medical order for ambulance service, because ambulance teams, if you call them in the last year of life and you don't want them to take you to the hospital, they can't use your living will to make that determination, nor can they use your healthcare agent to make that determination. Yes?
Can you repeat what that's called again?
Sure, and I'm going to show you in a little bit, and it's going to be on here, but it's called a Pennsylvania Physician Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment, or a POLST, P-O-L-S-T. So how many of you have a living will? A couple of you. Not a last will and testament, a living will, which are the medical directives to tell somebody when you get to that point where 2 physicians say you're not likely to survive for very much longer, what do you want in terms of life support treatments? How many of you have a power of attorney for health care? How many of you have 3 people on that power of attorney for health care? How many of you have 2? You have 3. Good, good. Some of you have 2. How many of you only have 1? Yeah, okay. How many of you have had these conversations with your family? Good for you. Yeah? No, no. Good. So, where are your documents is the last question. How many of you have them in a safety deposit box? In a safe in your home? In a notebook where somebody can find it easily, or in the junk drawer in your kitchen where all the important papers are? Yeah. So that's where it should be. Never in a safety deposit box, never in a safe. It can be in your safe as long as you have it somewhere else that's easily accessible. But you should have copies with each of the people who are your healthcare agents. You should have copies with anybody who's going to argue with them so they know what they're going to decide and who has the authority to make the decisions. Then a copy with your healthcare team and a copy in any hospital where an ambulance would take you. So here are the 3 decisions that we all have to consider. The first one, those 3 decision makers. The second one, what are the cultural, religious, or spiritual beliefs that you have that would influence the decisions you want made for your care? What are the traditions? What are the rituals? What's the music, Christian music? Stairway to heaven, highway to hell. Led Zeppelin. What kind of health care do you want to receive when you're in a kind of condition where you're in a coma and you're never, with brain damage, you're never going to wake up, or you have a permanent severe brain damage, or you're at the end of your life and you're in that 3, 4, 5-day phase where you are not eating, you are not drinking, you are not awake. Your body is shutting down. So I'm going to explore all of these with you. So choose a decision maker. Here's husband and wife, of course. That may be something, but then you need 2 other people besides that. Here's what your healthcare agent should do. You should never write them down without having them accept the role. So I had a person call me and say, my best friend just put me on her power of attorney for healthcare as one of her healthcare agents. I don't want to get in the middle of this family dynamic. Please take my name off of her document. Well, I am so sorry, but I can't take your name off of her document. You have to go back and talk to her and tell her that you don't really want to do this for her. You'll be there for her, but you don't want to be making the decisions. And if you can't do that, then just don't answer the call. Because when they call, they'll want you to act. Talk with them about what your goals, values, and preferences are for care, how you want to be cared for, how comfortable you want to be, who are the people you want around you, what legacy decisions do you want to have made. You want to have somebody who's going to follow your choices, particularly if you choose the option, the person can interpret my wishes based on my document and what I've had the conversation with them. You can choose 2 things. You can choose, let them interpret based on the information they have, based on their best knowledge. But the other one that some people choose, a lot of people choose, is don't change anything in my living will. Make every decision as I've asked you to. And don't change any of my instructions in my power of attorney for healthcare. Somebody who can make decisions in difficult moments. So Stephanie, these are the things that somebody uses to decide, how do I get primary, secondary, and tertiary? And so as you think about this, think of who those 2, 3 people could be for you. Explore cultural, religious, spiritual, or personal beliefs. So what are the beliefs that you have based on your religion or spirituality that would influence? For some people, it's last rites. I had a person who, as I helped her fill out her advance directives, very beginning said, I'm a Catholic and I have to have tube feeding till I take my last breath. That's a tenet of the Catholic Church. I've never heard that from another Catholic. My husband was Catholic. I've never heard that from a priest, but that was a core belief of hers, and I'm not going to disagree with her. That is what she wanted. That is what we wrote in her document. What are the practices? What are the rituals? What are the traditions that bring comfort? That's prayer, music, food, whatever it is, singing, having people by your bedside praying, having people just at church praying, having people holding your hand. And then whether or not you want to talk to somebody, who is that person that you want to talk to that could give guidance to your healthcare agents? So in the document I'm going to go over with you, there is a section that says, are you part of a faith community? You're going to write the name of that faith community, where they are located, what their phone number is. Do you have a particular chaplain, clergy, imam, priest, rabbi that you'd want to have called? You can write that person's name and their phone number so that it's right there. Again, if we don't have these conversations, sometimes people don't know, and particularly if our kids are scattered and we don't see them as often, sometimes life changes and they don't know or they won't remember. And then explore your goals of medical care. So think about a sudden event, like a car accident or an illness, leaves you unable to communicate. You receive all the care you need to keep you alive, but the doctors believe there is very little chance you'll ever recover the ability to know who you are or who you are with. So this is one of the 4 scenarios that are outlined in the 5 wishes. And these are the real things that happen. So if this were to happen, what does that situation mean to you? And what would you want done? Anybody want to volunteer? Oh, don't all talk at once. All right. So here's the thing. In the left-hand side of your packet, at the very back, is this booklet. So if you have, whoops, I don't know which one you have. You might have this booklet, you might have this booklet. This is the same booklet, it just was printed by Penn State Health and given to us for free. This booklet we also have in some of our packets. But this, if you have a serious illness, you have somebody in your family with a serious illness, you get diagnosed at some point with a serious illness, it's difficult in that 15 minutes to know exactly what to talk to your doctor about and to get that in. So this document, What Matters to Me, the Serious Illness Conversation Guide, created by the Conversation Project, this document gives you all of the different questions you could ask. This is something, again, you can share with your healthcare agent. You can share with a family member who may go with you to the doctor, who could help you ask those questions. So it's a great resource for you to have. On the right-hand side, right behind the first couple of pages, you're going to find this document, these 3 documents. Right-hand side of your packet, these 3 documents. So one is CPR. What is CPR? What are the benefits? What are the detriments? What are the alternatives? Help with breathing. So intubation and a ventilator, a BiPAP mask, or a comfort-focused treatment. And then tube feeding, long-term tube feeding, a trial of tube feeding, or comfort feeding. These are ways to truly understand what life support is if you've never experienced them. And a lot of people haven't. How many of you know exactly what getting CPR means to a person who's 70 years of age and older? Anybody? Okay.
It's brutal on the body.
Okay, brutal on the body. So I want to share a little bit with you just to give you a sense. If you look on the back of that document, you'll see that only 15 out of 100 people in the hospital that get CPR survive CPR. 15 out of 100. You know, we see on TV that everybody gets that little pat on the chest. They stay overnight in the hospital. They drive themselves home the next morning, and they have a great steak dinner. That is not reality. That's TV. Reality is CPR is 350 pounds of pressure on your chest, will break your sternum, will break your ribs. Now, getting CPR means you've stopped breathing and your heart is stopped. So for that period of time that you stop breathing, you have brain damage. That is why one of the end-of-life scenarios is in a coma with brain damage. 85% of the time, that's the result of CPR if you're in the hospital. Now, if you're in the community, it's only 5 out of 100, because think about, if you're in the community, who knows CPR? Who has a defibrillator handy, an AED? Who's going to do mouth-to-mouth on you? How long does it take an ambulance to get to you? And all that time, you're not getting oxygen, your heart isn't beating. And then if you're in a skilled nursing facility, people 80 years and above, typically with comorbidities, CHF, COPD, Alzheimer's, dementia, kidney disease, any number of things, it goes down to 2 out of 100. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll just get CPR and I'll be fine. Being put on a ventilator during COVID, anybody 70 and over, they took them off the ventilator, but they quickly died because they just didn't have the lung capacity to continue. And again, as you get older, these are more harmful. So we included these in your packet to really give you that education you need on all 3 kinds of treatments. So the question truly is, what would you want to do? Would you want to continue treatment? Would you not want to continue treatment and have it stopped if it's been started? And remember, if you're taken into an emergency room by ambulance, what is that emergency staff going to do? Immediate, full, aggressive treatment. They have to. But the minute they see who your healthcare agent is and calls that person and describes what condition you're in, your healthcare agent can say, stop. They would not want that. Take them off of that. Don't do that. Check their advance directive in their file. Follow their advance directive. Okay? You're always kept comfortable. I know a lot of people will say to me, well, they starve me, they'll starve my loved one to death, they won't give them water. That's never true. The body shuts down. When the body doesn't want food, the body doesn't want food. We'll always keep ice chips, the sponge for your lips. We'll hydrate as long as possible. We'll do food by mouth as long as possible. But we'll always keep you comfortable. But in today's healthcare, there are not enough staff, so you need that advocate by your side. 20 years ago, I sat every hospital stay by Bob's side, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless I went home to get a shower. Just because if he was in serious pain or he started to have AFib, I needed to go to the nurse's station and say, we rang the bell. If they didn't come in 15 minutes, I'd go to the nurse's station and say, I need some help. And that's what we have to do even more and more today. So it's so critical to have that person who can speak for you and make decisions. So last Post-it note, what have you learned? So if you have experienced somebody who's died or somebody who's lived with serious illness for a long period of time, what have you learned from that situation that's going to influence how you're going to make decisions for your own situation? What happened? What didn't happen that you think should have happened? How would you have wanted it to go differently? View of death and dying, and how you'd want it different. And same thing, once you're finished with your Post-it, bring it up, put it on the flip chart. Husband, 2 near deaths. Sister, stated was going to die and did 2 weeks later. 4 parents, in-laws, and my own. Not knowing what they wanted was awful. They think I'm morbid, but I vocalize what I want. I do not want to be kept alive if there's no chance of recovery. Need an advocate, need financial pre-planning. Must have an agent to speak for me, would not want CPR. Must have a conversation with my daughter. Don't want to be kept alive. Revisit my health. My health care instructions. Add 2 more advocates to my healthcare decision makers. Buy a burial plot. This happens so often. People die, there's no burial plot, there's no funeral plans, there's no instructions, there's no will, there's all of the hassle that follows. Follow the plans your loved one made. That too happens. I've seen fisticuffs over somebody's bed in the hospital or out in the hallway, screaming matches. My husband, dad of my 2 children, died at age 54. I learned my children could have talked and listened to him one-on-one. His family members should have had conversations with him. They abandoned us after he died. So my situation is not unusual. Knowing the plan makes decision-making easier. Respecting your loved one's wishes is most important. It's what they want, not what you want. Mom passed a year ago. We were all there with her in the hospital to say goodbye. She made it super easy for us kids. She had a DNR and pre-planned her burial. Left money in checking to pay for everything. So see, we can learn from each other by having these conversations, by not avoiding talking about death and dying in our culture like we always do. we've got 23 different ideas and experiences to share with each other. And it's not morbid, it's natural. As Ellen Goodman said, we changed the way we gave birth in America. We should change the way we die in America, because it would be more peaceful, it would be more serene, it would be more guiltless if we just would have these kinds of conversations. So I want you now, on the right-hand side of your packet, you'll find this 5 wishes document. So 5 Wishes was started 27 years ago by a gentleman by the name of Toomey. And he worked with Mother Teresa and saw through his work with Mother Teresa how badly people died. And he thought it could be done better. So he came back, sat down with a bunch of medical providers, sat down with a bunch of attorneys, ethicists, palliative care, hospice people, and created this document. So what you do with this document is you just print your full name and your date of birth on the front. You don't do anything with the box in the upper right-hand corner. Page 2 is a little bit of that background. This has been used by over 400 million people, 42 million people as of 2024. And this is legal in every state in the country. There's only 4 states where you need a little additional documentation. And if you order for those states, Ohio, Texas, I don't know them all off the top of my head because I just worry about Pennsylvania and Ohio, where my family is. So in those states, you need a little bit more. So it says Kansas, New Hampshire, Ohio, and Texas. If you want to change your document, whether it's this document, Penn State Health's document, Lancaster General's document, UPMC's document, the document you have with your attorney, if you want to change anything, you cannot cross anything through, initial and date it. You have to create a new document. That's at the bottom of page 3. Now, page 4 is wish 1. Who's the person I want to make decisions for me when I can't make them for myself? So you'll see at the top that only one physician has to determine that you don't have capacity. And that can be temporary, like I said earlier, temporary medical condition, temporary pain medication, beginning stages of Alzheimer's and dementia where you still have decision-making capacity. Your healthcare agent will step in and then will step out once you get capacity back. If it's permanent, then your healthcare agent will help you in every health situation, preventive, curative, or end of life. You have the opportunity to put your primary person, your second person, your third person. You're going to talk to them first. They're going to agree to do that for you. Then once you complete this, you're going to share that with them. You put your second, your third person, and at the bottom, it just reviews again what I shared with you earlier about who your healthcare agent could be. Just somebody over the age of 18, able to deal with a crisis, able to deal with conflict, able to support your wishes exactly the way you want them and not their wishes the way they would want them for you. On page 5, this is the job description, essentially, for your healthcare agent. And I want to highlight a couple of things on here. It says at the top, please cross out anything you don't want your healthcare agent to do that is listed. I would like you to cross through that statement. Because what we have found in use is that actually, we don't want you to cross out except for 2 things on here, and I'll explain why. So the first one is my healthcare agent is going to make choices for me about medical care, surgery, find out what the health problem is, treat it, pretty straightforward. It's the second bullet I want you to focus on. So this second bullet is what I talked about earlier. 2 levels of authority you can choose from for your healthcare agent. This is one of them. My healthcare agent can interpret my wishes. I want to give them the maximum flexibility. I trust that they'll follow my directions, so I'm going to leave them able to interpret. But if you want, if you're that kind of person, I want to know that they're going to follow it, the healthcare team's going to follow it. You're going to cross through that bullet, and you're going to write on the first line, my healthcare agents cannot change anything in my living will. My healthcare agents cannot change anything in my living will or this document. So those are the 2 levels, interpret or not be able to change anything in decision making. The next bullet is where some people have a problem. So this one says consent to admission to an assisted living facility, hospital, hospice, or nursing home. I can't tell you the number of times people have said, I'm crossing out nursing home. I never want to be in a nursing home. My aunt, my mother, my father were in nursing homes. It was terrible. Don't ever put me in a nursing home. Without understanding that nursing homes now in healthcare are our primary places for rehabilitation. So if you were to cross that out and you just had knee surgery from a car accident and you have to go to rehab, that would tie the hands of everybody. What people mostly mean is I don't want long-term care in a nursing home. So if that's what you mean by wanting to cross that out, then you would write on the lines below, I don't want long-term care in a nursing facility if at all possible. Please provide me with home care. I explained earlier what palliative care was, what hospice care is. Hospice care you can get in several ways in Pennsylvania. You can have hospice at home, not 24/7, a couple of days a week, 45 minutes a day, mainly nurses, with consults with other staff, and a caseworker, a social worker who will come. But just several days a week. So you have to have somebody full-time there with the person who's being cared for by hospice. Palliative care, same thing, not 24/7. You can ask for skilled nursing care 24/7, but you have to pay for that, so sometimes your long-term care insurance will pay for that. You can ask for home care, but home care as well is usually not 24/7. They're a couple of days a week. They'll do laundry, they'll do cleaning, they'll do food preparation, they'll do hygiene care for the patient. So get to know all of these providers in your community while you're still healthy, and particularly around assisted living. So many of us think we'll live in our homes till we're 120. But I just had somebody, 86, fell down the flight of stairs from her bedroom on the 2nd floor to the family room, went to the hospital. The hospital said, you can never go home. She's fighting that tooth and nail because she just wants to go home, but she's not capable of caring for herself. There's no family member she can live with. They need to put her into a nursing facility where if she had made the arrangements to be able to go to an assisted living facility earlier, she wouldn't have fallen down those stairs. She would have been on 1 floor. So for a lot of people, if you live in a 2-story house, your only bedroom is on the 2nd floor, your only bathroom is on the 2nd floor, you need to begin to think about what happens if I get to 90 and I can't make it up or down those stairs, even with a lift, or I'm falling, and a hospital says they can't send me home because it's not safe. So this is a thought provoker, and this is giving instructions to your healthcare agent about the decisions they should make. So the last bullet, make decisions about requesting, taking away, or not giving medical treatments, including artificially provided food and water, that's tube feeding. Again, You do not want to cross that out, even if you don't want tube feeding, because that's in your living will. This, you need your healthcare agent to be able to make decisions about life support treatments, and that is what gives them that. On the right-hand column, the second bullet, move me to another state to get the care I needed to carry out my wishes. Again, some people will say, oh my gosh, I'm never moving. I've lived here my whole life. Don't ever move me, without understanding that if your kids live in Chicago, California, New Jersey, and you no longer have family here, and they are having to come in to care for you all the time, it might be easier for them to move you closer to them so they can carry on their life, but you can still live independently. For some people, they have cancer and they want to go to Dana-Farber in Boston. They want to go to Anderson in Dallas. They want to go to the Cancer Centers of America in Denver. If you want to go to Hopkins for heart treatment, Mayo for heart treatment, you might go there for a limited period of time, get put up in a hospital room to be able to, or an apartment to be able to get treatments. So that would be moving you to another state. If you absolutely don't want to be moved to another state for any reason, this is the one you would cross out. Take any legal action, authorize or refuse to authorize any medication. If you're allergic to any pain medication, this is the place to put it. Take any legal action. Your healthcare agent may need to take legal action against an insurance company, against a family member who's taking legal action against them. I've had that happen. Sisters or brothers take the designated healthcare agent to court to try to undo it because they want control. Not fun. The next one, donate usable organs or tissues of mine is allowed by law. So this is one of 3 options. In Pennsylvania, you can donate beyond this. This is what's on our driver's license. If you want to donate everything, in Pennsylvania we can. Skin for burn victims, eyes, nose, ears, toes, bones, legs, whatever they can harvest that can help somebody else, we're able to do that. So if you wanted to do that, you'd add to this and anything else that's viable. Or you can donate to science, education, and research. That goes through the Humanities Registry of Pennsylvania. That's an additional form that you'd have to fill out and send to them. It's a form that gets witnessed, you send it to them, and when it's time, you put it as an attachment to your living will document, and when it's time, they will call them. They have arrangements with 30 different hospitals, teaching hospitals, universities, dental schools, for cadavers to use for education. We gave my husband's body to Johns Hopkins to study pancreatic cancer more, and then I got it back and we cremated him. So those are things that you can do. Once you're done with these 2 pages, that's your power of attorney for health care. If somebody dies and you still have 2 people, you can leave this the way it is, or if you want to have your 3rd person, you want to move people up, or you want to change people at any time, again, can't cross through them, right over it. You have to create a new document. And these are easy to get, very inexpensive. If you go to the next 2, wish 2, the kind of medical treatment I want. Here is where you're going to use these 3 documents on life support treatment to make your decisions about what life support you want and don't want. The bullets up here say, I do not want to be in pain, I want to be comfortable. Wish 3 says what can be done. I don't like you have to go to another wish. So I always say to people, here's an example. My husband took a week for his family to get to us because we lived in Baltimore and they lived a lot of other places. And he said, just give me as much morphine as possible. I'm in so much pain and I'll just sleep, which was fine. But when my family gets here, they're only going to be here for a few days. So I want you to not give me pain medication in the morning. I want to be awake from 10 to 4 and then up my pain medication again so I can sit in my chair and I can talk to every one of them. So we did that for 3 days. I gave him in the morning a lesser dose from 10 to 4. He was awake. From 4 to 10 the next morning, he slept or rustled or woke up at 2 in the morning and had me write all his instructions to all the people in his life. So if you want something like that, you can say, reduce my pain medication so I can say my final goodbyes right here. That's an important instruction for there. Offered food and fluids by mouth, kept clean and warm. The last bullet at the top, I do not want anything done or omitted by my doctors or nurses with the intention of taking my life. That is so badly worded. It's the one thing I argue with 5 wishes. This is death with dignity or medically assisted death. It is not legal in Pennsylvania. It is legal in 10 other states. There was another state trying to pass the law, and I think they did, so it might be 11. Maryland is a state, New Jersey, Maine, Colorado, Oregon, of course, has done this for 30 years, California, New Mexico. So if you lived in those states, went by their regulations, you could have it, but in our state, we can't. So go read through this, and then on these lines, say whether or not you want life support. So you can say, I do not want any of the life support treatments outlined above, or as the person I described earlier, I want tube feeding till my last breath, but I don't want any of the other life support treatments. I've lived a good life, let me go. Please do not put, don't hook me up to machines, because we have no idea what that means. Because, you know, an IV is hooked up to a machine, oxygen is hooked up to a machine, getting your blood pressure and temperature and all of that is a machine. We'd really like to hook you up to those machines. But if you instruct us not to, it's kind of hard. At the bottom, in case of an emergency, now you're going to find on the right-hand side this bright pink document. So this bright pink document is that Pennsylvania order, physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. This is to be used in the last year of life. It is also comparable to an out-of-hospital DNR form, but WellSpan makes this their sole document because it's more comprehensive, and our physicians believe that it doesn't make them attest to the fact that you only have 6 months to live, because they don't know if that's true or not, because they only see you for that short hospital stay. It's not your primary care doctor. So a doctor fills this out for you, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, fills it out with you, or this is the only document. This document cannot be filled out by anyone else, a power of attorney, living will, but this document can be filled out by your healthcare agent. If you don't have an agent, by your healthcare representative, by a parent, by a friend, by somebody else that you know who knows your wishes. And this covers whether or not you want CPR or do not want CPR. If you want CPR, then you want full treatment. You want everything possible done. You want to be taken to the hospital. You'll be intubated, put on a ventilator. You'll go directly to the ICU. If you don't want CPR, then your choices are limited additional interventions or comfort hospice care. It gives you the chance to look at antibiotics. And again, it goes in the same order. Full treatment is at the bottom, limited treatment in the middle, no treatment at the top. Hydration and nutrition, tube feeding, same thing. Long-term tube feeding at the bottom, full treatment, trial period, limited treatment, no tube feeding, comfort care. It has to be signed and dated by that medical provider who is going over it with you. Has to be signed and dated either by you or by the person who's representing you and filling out this form on your behalf. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I can fill out this, and I have filled this out with people in the hospital. I would sign my name on the back. So if you have a nurse, a social worker, a chaplain who has been trained in how to do this, They could fill it out, sign it on the back, but they'd still have to get a physician to sign it because it has to be physician, nurse practitioner, physician assistant order in order for ambulance staff to use it. If you choose limited treatment or comfort treatment and something happens that your healthcare agent or a family member wants to send you to the hospital, this says, don't take me to the hospital unless it's for something I will recover from. I don't want CPR and I don't want intubation ventilation. If you call the ambulance, you tell them, my loved one has a pulsed document. I'm calling you to get them back in bed for me. I called hospice to get them stabilized. If you call hospice, you tell them, my loved one has a pulse document. I just need you to bring oxygen. I've called hospice, and they're going to help stabilize. Because otherwise, ambulance staff are the same as emergency room staff. They are committed, trained, and required to do full aggressive treatment the minute they walk in the door. The out-of-hospital DNR form is a black and white form. It only addresses DNR. It does not address the rest of these things. And like I said, a physician needs to attest that you only have 6 months to live, that you're in a medical condition where you're in the process of dying. And some hospital systems don't want to do that. I know Penn State Health prefers the out-of-hospital DNR form. WellSpan prefers this form. I'm not sure about UPMC or Lancaster General. But there is no problem with you wanting this form. It's legal in Pennsylvania. Any ambulance system should accept this form or an out-of-hospital DNR form.
And going back, did you say in the beginning, this isn't something we do now, this is when you're in your last year?
Last year of life, treatment is no longer working. A physician has said, I wouldn't be surprised if you were to die in the next 12 months. Get your affairs in order, kind of thing. So you have a terminal condition that's no longer able to be treated and your health is going to decline. Or you're doing palliative treatment to just have comfort. Or you're at an age where you're more than likely to die. Okay? Yes?
Roberta, can I confirm you're saying like this 5 wishes, it doesn't seem like even needs notarized in Pennsylvania. So this will become a legal document replacing something a lawyer would have done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to get to all of that in a minute, but great question. Yeah. So this is a living will. Now, a living will, you're in a car accident, you're taken to the emergency room, you have an advance directive on file, but they say, oh, you're going to recover from this, you're just going to be in the hospital for a couple of weeks. Don't think that they're going to pull out your living will and say, oh no, she's a DNR, we're not going to do anything for her. This living will document only goes into effect when these 4 things happen on page 7. If you're in the hospital with pneumonia, you're going to recover, no living will. If you're in a car accident, have a heart attack or stroke, you're going to recover from, no living will. But if you're close to death because of car accident, boating accident, hiking accident, heart attack, stroke, old age, terminal condition, close to death, 2 physicians have said they don't expect you to recover. That's when your living will goes into effect. You're in a coma with brain damage, the typical result of CPR. You're not expected to recover. You're never going to wake up. It's not an induced coma. It's not a natural coma. It's a coma with brain damage. Then your living will goes into effect. You have permanent severe brain damage. I think Terry Schiavo, if you remember Terry Schiavo, the 35-year-old woman who went into severe and permanent brain damage. She didn't have any documents. Her husband and her parents fought for 15 years, keeping her on a ventilator. The Supreme Court stepped in, made the final decision to give her husband the authority to make the decisions for her. You never wake up. You don't know who you are, who you're with. You may open your eyes. You need 24/7 care. If you're in this condition, you still can decide you want full aggressive treatment or you don't want any treatment. or you want a doctor to decide. And then the last is any condition you want to name. For me, personally, it's either a severe stroke, where I can't dance in the kitchen, have my glass of red wine, and play with the great-grandchildren, or Alzheimer's and dementia. If either of those things happen to me, I do not want any life support. But it could be locked-in disease, could be Parkinson's, could be ALS, could be any other condition, could be end stage. You don't have to put anything here, but if you're adamant about something, you can add that here. Once these 2 pages are done, that's your living will document. Just remember, it only goes into effect when 2 physicians say you're not likely to recover. And sometimes you have to advocate for the use of somebody's living will. Because we do have some doctors that will not give up because they feel it's a major failure if they don't cure the person. But sometimes curing isn't possible, even for the best of doctors. So wishes 3, 4, and 5, that's pages 8 and 9. This isn't a legal section of your document, but these are so important. How comfortable do you want to be? How do you want people to treat you? What do you want your loved ones to know? So lots of things in here. You want a cool, moist cloth on your forehead if you have a fever. My mother was a nurse. She did that all through my childhood. It was the most wonderful thing in the world. Maybe you don't want that. You'd cross that out. I want to be massaged with warm oils. 2 90-minute massages every month. That's why I'm so relaxed and chill. That may just be massage my hands, massage my feet. I don't want a whole body massage, but massage these things that'll make me feel, massage my ears. I wish to have religious or spiritual readings and well-loved poems. Would anybody know what that is for you? Would anybody know what that is for you? Write it down. Have a playlist, have a reading list, attach it to this, but be specific, because this is for your benefit. I wish to know about options for hospice care. So think, if you want hospice at home, hospice in a facility, Mount Joy is probably the closest 35-bed facility. It's absolutely beautiful. Or hospice in a hospital. Most of the hospitals around here have a hospice floor where you can discontinue treatment, be treated by hospice. You're discharged from the hospital. The nurses at the nursing station no longer care for you. It's the hospice team that cares for you if you're in the hospital. So add that information here. How I want people to treat me. So this is, do you want people in the room all the time? Do you want just one person? Do you want to be talked to even if you're non-responsive? Do you want your hand held? I want people praying by me. If not, just cross it out. Faith community, whatever faith community, put their name, address, and phone number. Visited by chaplain, clergy, rabbi, priest, imam, add that. Music, favorite music. I wish to have pictures of my loved one near my bed. That could be trinkets too. So if you've got great grandkids like me, you've got little things they've made for you over the years. Some of those are valuable. I want to have those. My husband had a picture book of his mother and some friends and his kids and me. And I have a pink stone heart from Africa that a close friend gave to me as I helped her husband and her as he was dying. And so I absolutely want that with me. So again, music, fill out what you want. Pictures or trinkets, fill out exactly what you want. You want to die in your home, as 70% of people do. Make sure you can. You can't just say it. Can you fit a hospital bed in the living room, family room, dining room? Is there a place to go to the bathroom to give you a sponge bath? Is there a way to put a porta potty in? All of those things, medical equipment. Can you get a wheelchair through? So sometimes you can't die at home because your family can't deal with it emotionally. Sometimes you can't die at home because your home isn't big enough or built well enough to deal with all of the different mobility issues that you have to deal with. Wish 5, legacy. I love you. Here are my dreams for you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. What you want everybody to know. That you wish for your family, the people most important to you, friends and caregivers, to respect your wishes, even if they don't agree with them. You want your body to be buried or cremated. You know, in Pennsylvania, you can have a green burial. You can be buried in your backyard if you get approval. That shot to the moon, have your ashes, funeral pyre out to sea, whatever you want. Who knows about your funeral wishes, where your remains or cremains going to be placed. Then at the bottom, how do you want people to remember you? What do you want in a memorial service or a funeral service? This is pretty generic. You can be as specific as you want in an addendum, but this isn't the arrangements with a funeral home. You need to make arrangements with a funeral home or crematory to take care of everything. And you want to pre-plan, as the person said. My mom pre-planned and it made it so easy for us kids. The third one is, it is important for my health providers to know what matters most to me. This is non-medical. So this is, I'm always cold. I want that warming blanket. I want socks on. I'm always so hot. Don't come near me with a warming blanket. I hate my toes crunched under the sheets. I want to watch the Phillies if I'm dying in the summer, because I love the Phillies, or the Eagles, or Penn State, whatever it is. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. I want direct information. I can't handle it all at once. Give it to me in little pieces. So what are the things that will bring you comfort, bring you understanding, help you as you're dying? These are our wishes, again, I said, that aren't legal, but helps to reduce your pain, helps to give people the ideas to bring you comfort and equality to your natural death, and then the things that are most important to you for your loved ones. On April 16th, for National Healthcare Decisions Day, we brought Dr. Ira Byock to Lebanon for 3 different sessions, and the last one was to present the 4 things that matter most to live fully, what mortality can teach us about living fully. And there are 13 words, 4 things, 13 words that make all of the difference in the world in life and at death. I forgive you, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. It's a fabulous book if you get a chance to get it. 4 Things That Matter Most by Ira Byock. It's this wish 5 that makes such a difference. So how many of you have had these conversations with your loved ones? Some of you said you've had conversations, but how many of you have had these? How many of your loved ones have had these conversations with you? It's not just a one-way conversation. That's fabulous. It's a 2-way conversation. So how are you going to change it? Well, I'm going to give you an assignment. See, there's always a method to my madness here. How would you start the conversation? That's going to be your assignment. So creating your 5 wishes, you can use this document. You can use Penn State Health's document, which is also in your packet, because they're part of our coalition in Lebanon County. Penn State Health, UPMC, Lancaster General. You know, it doesn't matter which document you choose. You can keep the one from your attorney if you like it, if you think it's complete. You can use this one and replace it, whatever you create new. I had a gentleman in a farming accident, didn't have any documents, thought he was going to die. He wrote on a napkin on the way in the ambulance to the hospital. He had 2 witnesses sign it. He signed and dated it. He listed his wishes. That was his living will. That went into his health record. That is what we followed as we cared for him. So it doesn't matter which one you use. In Pennsylvania, you do not need an attorney. You do not need a notary. You only need 2 witnesses. So this is the most important page, and this is what is going to answer Stephanie's question. On page 10, once you finish filling this out, you would write your name at the top, put in your address and your phone number, but you would not sign it or date it until you're in front of 2 witnesses. Those 2 witnesses cannot be the people you have on page 4. They cannot be your healthcare agent. They cannot be your financial agent associated with your last will and testament. They cannot be the executor of your estate. But they can be any other family member. They can be any healthcare provider that's willing to sign as a witness. You can take it to the bank, you can take it to the grocery store, you can take it to your neighbors, you can take it to church, you can take it to work. Just get 2 people to stand in front of you while you sign and date it. And the only thing those 2 people are doing are saying, oh, I've seen Roberta, I know Roberta, either from her driver's license or I actually know her. I'm just witnessing her signing this. I'm not reading it, I'm not approving it, I'm just saying, she looks of sound mind. She doesn't look like she's being coerced. I'm going to witness her signature. On page 11, you're going to be able to say at the top of the page who you give this to. So you're going to write there, my healthcare agents, any other family member or friend who you want to have a copy, the health systems you've given it to. At the bottom, there's a wallet card. There's also a wallet card with the post. These wallet cards you fill out, make a copy, you can have it laminated, you put it right with your insurance card. This gives your signature, the information of your primary healthcare agent, who your primary care physician is, where your document's located, and you put your health system where you have it at home. And for some people, they create a notebook. For other people, they'll put it in the junk drawer in the kitchen. Let everybody know it's in the junk drawer. If you have an office, sometimes it's there. I had one staff member say she put it in her underwear drawer so nobody would find it. I said that's not a good idea either. That's like a safety deposit box. When should you update this? So we have 6 Ds. The first one is if you're under the age of 50, every decade birthday. 50 to 65, I say every 5 years. 65 and above, every 2 years. Until you get to 90, 85, 90, then you want to visit it every year. Death of a loved one. So the death of a loved one might be your healthcare agent. Death of a loved one might be something that you learn that you want to change for your healthcare agent or in your living will. Divorce, of course, as you get divorced, your person can no longer be your healthcare agent, but if that's the only person on your document and you haven't changed it, as one staff person also told me, oh my God, I don't want that person pulling the plug. Please put divorce on your list. Diagnosis of a serious illness or a disability, discharge from the hospital, or a decline in health. These are all of the reasons to look at it again. You may not change it, but look at it. Make sure it still represents who you want and what you want. The more hospital stays, the more decline in health you'll have. We went through the post. So again, in your packet, in the PowerPoint, you'll have this review, all of the things that I talked about with it. You also have a wallet card. Once that is signed by whoever fills it out for you, you put that with your insurance card as well. It's really the conversation that's the gift. It's not this document. Because just reading the document, I can interpret it in my own way, maybe not the way you intended. So providing a copy, having a conversation, Memorial Day is coming up. We're going to have our next one after Memorial Day. So your assignment is going to be to take the 5 wishes, sit down with your healthcare agents between now and the 28th, have a conversation, fill out the 5 wishes, even if you already have a document. Find out whether or not people know what your bucket list is and what you want. Don't tell them ahead of time. Ask the question. It's an eye-opening experience. Dying and death is a natural part of living. We just don't know when. So that's why we say start at age 18. Update it regularly. Don't wait till you're old and you have a serious illness as the time to do this. How many people every day do we open the newspaper and they've died prematurely? So it makes a difference. I have a little 3-minute video to show you what difference it can make.
A couple of years ago, we had our first conversation project, and there was one individual who was a part of the initial conversation. About 6 months later, developed a cancer, a very bad cancer with a bad prognosis. It was still hard to have the conversation, but she was much more open to us thinking through what she would want in those last few days, or last few months for her, actually. She knew that she didn't want to die at home. She had her reasons for not wanting to do that. But she could talk about that in advance, and it just made for a much smoother transition. And the thing that was so exciting, she ended up being buried in a cemetery that she chose because one of the things that really mattered to her teenage grandson when he was a little kid was watching the trains go by. She chose a plot that was right along the train line, so we were there at the burial, and the train goes by. And that was such a gift to that boy. And what his mother said was, because she had thought these things through and made some plans and communicated her wishes, she made what was such a difficult process so much sweeter. Having these conversations really makes a difference.
And it does. So in your packet, again on the left-hand side, you're going to find either a large conversation starter guide, something that looks like this, or a smaller one, depending. We've had different kinds. This is what they've been talking about. This was what was in the first video. Again, this doesn't have any legal documents in it, but it's a great way to lead that conversation and help complete it. So 1 or 2 words about how you'd want to die. As we've talked about this today, how would you want to die? In my sleep. That's 3 words, but I take it. Peacefully. Gracefully. Quickly. Painless. You can see, this was next to Ellen Goodman in her office. It's an anagram over the years. You don't see in here in the hospital, hooked up to a ventilator, in the ICU, separated from my family. You see peaceful, comfortable, painless, in my sleep, with God, joyful, with music, no regrets, dignified. See, that's why I present this. Bob died alone with me. None of his family was with him because he never had this conversation with them. And they all left angry. And they're still angry to this day. I'm not. So in order for us to get here, we have to do this work. This letter, this is in your packet as well. I love this letter from a mother to her family. It's called Don't Panic, It's Okay. If you're faced with a snap decision, don't panic. Choose comfort, choose home, choose less intervention. Choose to be together at my side, holding my hand. Singing, laughing, loving, celebrating, and carrying on. I will keep loving you and watching you and being proud of you. You can write this letter to your family. You can do an audio tape to your family. You can do any number of things to help ease their pain in losing you. I provide one-on-one assistance for free to anyone who wants help creating their advance directives. So my card is in your packet. My information is in your PowerPoint. I sit with individuals, with couples, with families, whatever will help you. I'm available, and I do that as a service to the community. So, and at the end, you're going to see, and there's a sheet in your packet, a lot of different programs that we provide. The one that I'm going to provide next on May 28th is called Next Steps. So it's what do I do now? This is the overview. This is helping you consider all of the things, the 3 legal documents you need, how to have those conversations with family, what advanced care planning is. Now I want you to do the work and come back on the 28th, and I will walk you through all of the different things and how to make the decisions and answer your questions. So it's going to be more of a direct planning experience with you. I hope you will come back. I hope you will do those 3 things. Sit and ask your family members, your loved ones, the important people in your life, what's most important to me? What gives my life meaning? What do you think? What would I want if I only had 6 weeks to live? What do you think? What have you learned? Use these 3 questions. What have you learned from somebody dying or something seriously ill? And how would you use that in caring for me? And then go through the 5 wishes for yourself. Think about what your answers would be. Have a conversation. Fill out as much as possible. And then come back on the 28th, and we'll share our experiences. We'll learn more about what to do. If you want to use your own legal documents, bring those with you on the 28th, and we'll go through them. Make sure you have everything you need. Anytime you have a question, feel free to call me or email me, text me. But any questions now? Anything else?
So I had a friend who was advised to have one of her children be on her check. And she did it. She actually had both children. One of them depleted the account within a year. Why would you need that?
So you have that if you're going to have your children managing your finances for you. So if you're losing capacity, decision-making ability, mobility, if you have a serious illness that brings you in and out of being able to handle your finances, you should have that person on your check be your financial power of attorney, not just one of the children. So you should do the same thing. You should name them a financial power of attorney, because then they are legally bound to handle your finances in a way that's legal, ethical. It doesn't mean they still can't steal money from you, as we know, even from professionals who steal money from their clients. But it's a greater protection. And it probably was advised because she was losing capacity in some way. If not, I would not do it. If you have full capacity, and I would not put a child on an adult's checking account unless there was some need for that assistance. Yes?
My daughter filled out power of attorney and all that stuff through the computer. We did not go to a lawyer.
Okay.
Is that legal?
It is.
It is.
If it's been witnessed by 2 people. So there's a group with 5 wishes called My Directives. It's a national electronic database that you can fill out the document online, an electronic document. There's also a group out of California that has a document that you can fill out online. As long as it's witnessed, as long as it's signed by you digitally, as long as it's witnessed digitally, it's a legal document. Still doesn't need to be notarized, still doesn't need an attorney, but there's several different companies, 5 Wishes, My Directives, Wiser Care, can't remember the other one. There's another one out of the University of California in San Francisco. Yep, yep, yep.
And then we can have this filled out when we come back.
I'm asking for you to go through that, think about it. Because even if you don't use that as your advance directive, it is so rich in information for your healthcare agent to know what you would want them to do. Because I've not seen any other document from the health systems or from attorneys that are as complete as this document. Yes. So bring your packet back with you. Bring your whole packet. Look through everything that's in your packet because there's information about palliative care and hospice. There's information about last will and testament, living wills, powers of attorney for healthcare, powers of attorney for finance. Yes.